I like video games. I also like music. What if we combine the two? Before we really start talking about what a battle theme is, I think I need to do a quick description so we can get a good idea of what we're looking at. Now, there's no real description out there on the internet, so I'm gonna have to do my best to try and make my own. Battle music is a subcategory of video game music, but it only plays during a battle. It's a pretty vague description, and honestly, it's a pretty vague topic to begin with. The idea of battle music is so ingrained in video game culture, it's kind of obvious to see what is battle music and what isn't. So creating a description that's more detailed is a little difficult. Battle music is battle music. You can tell what it is when you're playing the game. But what purpose does it have? And why is it so important to have in video games? To answer those questions, we might have to go back in time a little bit. Video games have been around for a long time. Vaguely put, video games are a form of entertainment where the player is the one directly influencing the outcome of the entertainment. This leaves a lot up to the imagination as to what the first video game is. But one of the things that is known is that all these games were completely silent. The technology available back then wasn't able to assign things that were happening on screen with a corresponding sound. It was groundbreaking enough that these games were running, let alone with audio. It wasn't until the 1971 classic Computer Space where the first sounds would be heard. It allowed for some of the most interesting beeps and boops that I've ever heard. Sarcasm aside, this was groundbreaking. It was an advancement that led to much greater things. If you can have beeps and boops, what is stopping you from making those beeps and boops into music? Initially, music was used to add on to the experience of a video game. You do not need the music in order to play the game, but it does help with the overall enjoyment. Space Invaders is credited as one of the first games to put in a rhythm that would be played continuously throughout the game. Calling it music would be a little generous. It's mostly just sounds that are playing one after the other. It wasn't a necessary piece of the game, and it was just there so that there wasn't awkward silence. Technology advanced, and it was now possible to add more than just 4 notes to a single system. It wasn't the most drastic leap in technology, though, as they were still limited to the amount of notes you could play at a certain time. Just what could be possible? Well, enter Sheriff. The video game gods of Nintendo released this very simple game in the year 1979, 6 years after the release of Computer Space. Sheriff may not be the first game with music, but it was the first game to use that music in a meaningful way. There was a simple 5-second loop that would play nearly all of the time that the game was booted up. Occasionally, there was this purple bird pterodactyl thing that would fly along the top of the screen. When this happened, there would be a change in music. But that wasn't all. At certain points in the game, the bandits would try to enter the square that the sheriff was in. You knew it was coming because of the arrows and a short little jingle, followed by the new set of music. It's a little faster, a little more suspenseful than the basic loop that was playing before. It may be some of the most basic music that can be heard, composed of about 6 notes per song that repeated as long as they needed to. An important thing to know was how this music was actually being played. Back in the 1970s, all music was being kept on physical mediums, things like cassette tapes and records. Cassettes and records are expensive, and they have a tendency to break if used a lot. Putting this technology into arcade cabinets was not feasible, so they decided to scratch that idea pretty quickly. Except for Journey, but we won't be talking about that cursed game. While the technology didn't exist to place music from outside the system, it was possible to create sounds within the system. Internally, developers were able to make a speaker play a simple sound. Tell the computer to do it a few more times at different pitches, and you have yourself some music. It's not the most complicated thing ever. It's a little bit repetitive and annoying, but it is a rhythm. The most important thing about these tracks were the mood that they would give off. The three main songs of Sheriff are all trying to tell you something different about the situation. A neutral song that was a little bit calm, but mostly reminded you that it was game time. A frantic song that told you something interesting was happening. And lastly, a fast-paced song that let you know you were in danger. The perfect trifecta of video game music. Most video game songs can fit into this triangle. Honestly, pick any song and see if you can put it somewhere on this triangle. And actually, video games aren't the first form of media to do this either. In fact, it was quite popular for movies to do something similar. Certain songs would represent different situations that were happening on screen. One of, if not the most iconic examples of this, is Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Everyone has heard this theme and knows what it means. It means that the big boy is coming. The beauty of this theme is that it does such a good job at portraying how you are supposed to feel in the moment. The long pauses between the notes at the beginning of the song are almost hard to hear. They're so spaced apart that it's a wake-up call when you register that first note. It's so quiet, but the deep notes of the tuba offset that emptiness with something so abrupt and unnatural. As the track continues, it gets even faster and even louder. It's kind of unsettling and creepy, and that's exactly what they're trying to make you feel. Used intermittently throughout the movie, this track portrays so much more than an orchestra playing a few notes. But this isn't a battle theme. It's just a piece of music that is used in a very specific way and does an effective job at making you feel an emotion. Fun fact, Jaws actually had a video game, which came out on the NES in 1987. Actually, the NES is a good place to go next, as it's one of the pioneers of video game consoles. Up until the NES, it was hard to come across a video game system other than the Atari. You had to play games at an arcade. Arcade games are widely acknowledged as video games. They definitely fit the description. But not everyone could afford an arcade cabinet. An individual household was usually unable to buy one unless you were really well off. The accessibility of video games were limited. It was an expensive business. In order to create a more accessible and cheaper option, game companies looked inside the house. Not everyone could go to an arcade, but a lot of people could get a television. There is a new jump in video game technology. The NES was released from the years 1983 to 1995. Within that span, just over 700 games were released for the system, which is a lot of games. I do not have the time or sanity to go through all of them, but let's look at the best one. Introducing the father of all video games, an icon that is noticeable even to this day. Mario. Super Mario Bros. Was the first installment to one of the longest-running video game series. The gameplay was pretty simple. Play as an Italian plumber and try and save the princess. The typical damsel in distress story that had you fight against an army of baddies that constantly wanted to take you down. Now, music has been deeply rooted in the past of Mario. From its conception, Mario has always had music by his side. Every stage that you had to go through was accompanied by a different track. One of its qualities was that the music was so suitable for the environment that Mario was in. In total, there are 4 different themes, and they are all related to where Mario is at the time. Everyone has heard Overworld Mario. I played the iconic jingle just a few seconds ago, and I know that it put a smile on your face. The underground theme is also iconic, but it's a little less happy than the main theme. It suits the feeling of being underground. Waterworld is a theme that plays underwater. It's quite whimsical and suits the underwater life. And finally, the castle theme is fast and a little tense. It equals the pressure needed to fight off the big bad King Koopa. We are getting a little closer to a battle theme, as King Koopa's castle theme is only played on stages where you have to fight Bowser. There is a boss, there is a battle, if you could call it that, and there is music. It's battle music, right? Well, no, not really. While yes, it is music that plays during a boss battle, to call it an individual boss battle would be wrong. The reasoning is Super Mario Bros. Genre of game. Super Mario Bros. Is a two-dimensional platformer. The genre usually consists of a character that has to jump around on various platforms and avoid a set of enemies that are trying to get to you. Going through a set of levels, each has different themes and different obstacles to overcome as the game continues. This also means that the stage is going to have their own piece of music. In the case of Super Mario Bros., the theme is not supposed to represent the specific battle with King Koopa. The theme is called King Koopa's Castle, and it plays through the entire castle level. Because the theme is not confined to the boss specifically, it's not a battle theme. The song represents the stage, not the specific battle. But we are getting a little closer to what we're looking for. Sadly, I don't think we will find it in the two-dimensional platformer. But there are other games that have you running and jumping around, but aren't quite 2D platformers. Metroidvania is a genre of video games that has a very close relation to the 2D platformer. While you are running and jumping around, there's a set path that you are able to go down, and there are limitations to where you can and cannot go at a certain time. While platforms usually revolve around getting from left side to the right side of the screen, Metroidvanias are more about from getting point A to point B. A slight difference, I know, but there is much more than just this. Metroidvanias task you with getting certain items that will make your journey go a lot smoother. Get an item that lets you do a certain thing, do the thing at a certain spot, celebrate. Another big difference between a platformer and a Metroidvania is the fact that Metroidvanias are split into one massive map, rather than into individual levels. Certain areas on this map have different obstacles, and they usually lead to a boss fight. So what about the music? Actually, the name Metroidvania derives from the combination of Metroid and Castlevania, the two founding fathers of the genre. Castlevania would go on to be a very successful series in itself, but because Metroid was released by Nintendo, its standards for music were a lot higher. Metroid came out in August of 1986 and was the first of the two to be released. It's the purest example of what a Metroidvania is. Go collect certain items and abilities, and then use those things to gain progress in the game. The final goal of the game was to defeat the Metroid that were taking over planet Zebeth and destroy Mother Brain. The planet Zebeth is infested with monsters of all different species, and there isn't time that you can really get away from them. There were a variety of bosses that could be fought through the duration of the game, each nestled in their own corner. In total, there was Kraid, Ridley, and the final boss, Mother Brain. The music of Metroid only consisted of about 12 tracks that would play throughout the entire game. They had some shorter tracks for when you upgraded an item and when you beat the game, the location-based songs for when you were in a certain area of the map, and finally, songs that would play during the boss fights. Each of the three bosses had their own arrangement of music that would play for the fight. The music would play for the duration of the fight, then it would be followed up by a victory jingle, and revert back into the location music. We have done it. The first iteration of battle music has been found. I am still going to put a little asterisk on this award though, as it's mainly just boss music that is found. It does fall under the category of battle music, but it's only for one battle, or at least for one enemy if you have to fight them more than once. It's a topic that I'm going to bring up a little later, so just give me a moment to talk about the actual music. Using the NES technology, developers could create longer and more interesting songs than the ones from the past. While still being a lot of beeps and boops, it was more intricate and allowed for more thought to be put into it. The three main boss themes reflect that nicely, as they also managed to set a mood for the battle ahead. Although they each use a different method, Kraid's lair, while being the most coherent, has long and deep notes that would play throughout the song. It gives a very haunted house effect. Ridley's Domain has notes that are played in reverse, and they do a good job at being abnormal and off-putting. Mother Brain, on the other hand, it is an incoherent mess that is more akin to random sounds than a basic rhythm. It just goes to show that Mother Brain is not something that can be understood, and its theme represents that. All of the music in Metroid is great and suits the environment to a T. The idea of a battle theme is strictly limited to boss battles, and music outside of boss battles are for locations and fanfare. Like I said, we will get into the topic of boss themes in a little, but apart from that, Metroidvanias are kind of out of luck for battle themes. So, we talked about 2D platformers, and we just finished the Metroidvania genre. I think there's one more notable genre that we gotta look at. role-playing games, to be more specific, Japanese role-playing games. Shortened to just JRPG, this genre was originally a subgenre of the RPG. The RPG is generalized as being any game where you control a character and go through a story that is set out by the game developers. It's a pretty vague term, which creates a lot of subgenres that exist under it. The Western role-playing game is often used as a juxtaposition to the JRPG. In a WRPG, you insert a character into the story by creating a character. They have their own personalities, as you can usually control what the character says in certain situations. Gameplay of a WRPG consists of exploring and hunting down enemies with real-time action. This differs from the JRPG, where you take control of a character that has a predetermined story that you follow. The characters have predetermined personalities and actions for every situation that they are in. Gameplay of a JRPG consists of following along the hero's journey. This usually means that a JRPG puts more emphasis on the story of the game. In most cases, you play the game for the story. One of the advantages of having a more story-driven title is that gameplay may not be the main form of entertainment that players are looking for. Play a game like Fallout, the entertainment is brought by the action aspects of the game. Things that happen outside of the story, and the plot is only there to grant players a sense of completion. In JRPGs, you are more entertained by the story that is unfolding, and the action is only an obstacle to get past in order to continue on that story. This puts a big emphasis on creating a story that is engaging and emotional. I talked earlier about how music is able to sway your emotions to make you feel a certain way. Story-based games often use music as a way to emphasize those emotions, using certain tracks at certain times to try and suit the actions happening on screen. The music of a JRPG is made to fill particular roles, and battle themes are one of those roles. Because a lot of JRPGs are built on a turn-based system, the battles are separate from the overworld. A fade to black, and then loading up a different area that has you and the baddies in an isolated part of the world. This is usually accompanied by a short jingle that lets you know that you have been caught, followed by a piece of music that represents the danger that you are in, commonly known as a battle theme. After the battle is won, there's a little victory theme, another cut to black, and you are back into the overworld. The idea of a battle theme comes in relation to how JRPGs function, and it is one of the only genres that battle music can call its home. The format in which a character enters a battle gives the game enough time to transition into a battle theme. Other, more fluent games may not have the same time to prepare a new song. Imagine Metroid, but every time there's a new enemy on screen, you hear a new battle theme. I'd go mental. It's the short pause and load into a battle arena that gives a battle theme the ability to start playing. There are a few great games that have been following this formula for a long time, most notably Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Both were released around the same time and both have very good battle themes. But to avoid getting beaten to a pulp by a Buster Sword, I'm going to be talking about a different series. Pokemon was created a little bit later than the two series I just mentioned, but it does an amazing job at representing what a battle theme truly is. Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue all came out for the Nintendo Game Boy from 1996 to 1999, and it follows the usual JRPG tropes. It feels a little weird calling Pokemon a JRPG, but it fits the genre perfectly. Pokemon is a game where you encounter wild Pokemon and trainers that you have to battle with. In a turn-based setting, you adventure around a region and collect items that help you progress through the region, where the final goal is a battle between yourself and the rival that you have had throughout the journey. It is textbook JRPG shenanigans, and the music is also pretty textbook. All of it follows some of the patterns that we've seen before. There is music that relates to where you are on the map, fanfare that notify you when you've done something or something is going to happen, and, most importantly, music that plays during the battle. Now, there are a few different battle themes in this game, all of them great, so let's take a look. The first one is for when you encounter a wild Pokemon. There's a theme for when you fight a trainer, one that plays only when you fight the gym leaders, a rival battle song that plays only when you fight Blue, and finally an edited version of the rival theme that plays during the final battle. That is 5 different themes for the same game, and I want to cover all of them because they all fit the situation that they are used in. Starting off with the wild Pokemon encounter. It is music to my ears. Even though I've heard it over 1,000,000 times, it is still one of the best songs to come out of Pokemon. The song starts off with a bang, and the first few notes are so fast that it's kind of a little surprising. It catches you off guard, and it's the first thing you'll notice when you run into a wild Pokemon. The fast pace of the song matches perfectly with the fast-paced action of Pokemon, even though it is a turn-based game. The theme does a good job of catching you off guard, kinda like the wild Pokemon you just encountered. The trainer battle has a lot of the same qualities as the wild Pokemon battle, just slightly varied. The trainer battle theme also starts off quite abruptly, a few set of sharp notes leading into a more rhythmic tune. The trainer theme is also on the faster side, but not quite as fast as the wild Pokemon theme. Also, this theme is a bit more organized than the wild Pokemon theme, and it makes sense. Wild Pokemon are a little more sporadic, and their encounters are a little more random. On the other hand, a trainer battle has more planning behind it, and you know when you're about to encounter one. The same goes for their music. The wild Pokemon theme is a little more random, using a lot more notes. It's a little harder to keep track of, while the trainer theme is more thought out and uses more rhythm. The gym theme separates itself even farther from the wild theme. The gym leader theme, while still being fast, is a lot more controlled than the previous two themes. Everything is planned, it all flows so nicely from note to note. You know, like a gym battle. And the last two themes, I'm gonna put another asterisk on. Fighting your rival is a lot similar to fighting the final boss, and it's a bit different than fighting a gym leader. While a gym leader could be considered a boss, there are about 8 gym leaders, and they all share one theme. The rival battle theme is only played when you face your rival, so it's more along the lines of a boss theme rather than a regular battle theme. I swear I will get onto that topic eventually, but to continue with Pokemon for just another second here. I wanted to take a quick look at how each of these songs are composed, more specifically the wild trainer and gym themes. In Pokemon, you have to battle a lot. Through every route, you'll find a mixture of wild Pokemon and trainers. There are 8 guaranteed gym leaders that you have to fight, as well as 4 members of the Elite Four and 1 champion. It's quite literally impossible to count the amount of Pokemon battles you have to enter on your journey. You'll be listening to a lot of battle music. Taking that into consideration, the music has to be entertaining enough to hold your attention while not being too repetitive and annoying to listen to over and over again. The wild theme is the best to help out my case here. Despite being played hundreds of times through the game, it's still as good as the first time that you heard it. This is because of how the song is composed, and how random the song actually is. The song may end up getting stuck in your head if you listen to it for too long, because it's a very arbitrary rhythm, it's hard to follow. It's pattern repetition that makes you get annoyed with a particular song. It's kind of like when a pop song says the same 5 lyrics in a row. You've noticed the pattern, and it just gets a little bit annoying. With the wild battle theme, the notes are all over the place, and it's harder to really put a finger on where you are in the song. With no real pattern to hold on to, it's easier for the song to be replayed. It makes it easier to repeat, and also explains why hearing the gym leader theme one after the other is a little repetitive. Trainer themes sit right in the middle of those two, as it takes qualities from both of those songs. The trainer theme will be replayed multiple times through the game, but not to the extent of the wild Pokemon theme, and it's played more than the 8 times you hear the gym leader theme. A perfect middle. The randomness can be put on a graph, if you're into that data. It kinda looks like this. The more you have to listen to a song, the more the song has to be random in order to avoid sounding boring and repetitive. A lot of JRPGs will follow this logic as well. While some succeed and they've become quite popular, like Pokemon, some fail and become a little bit annoying when played through the game. And it's one of the reasons I think Tales of Vesperia falls a little short. In Tales of Vesperia, there are a few battle themes, and they all rotate through each other. In concept, this is a great idea. To avoid getting repetitive, you have a few songs that cycle each time you battle. The problem comes when each of these songs are annoying to listen to on their own. I'm going to be talking about Furnace of War in particular, but similar things apply to both Burning Fighting Spirit and Tenacity, the 2 other battle themes. The first few seconds of Furnace of War are actually quite good. In a first listen, you may even call it good, but you are being deceived. Furnace of War consists of the same 20-second loop that has a slight variation for every loop that goes by. If the battles only took 20 seconds, it would be fine. You would miss out on that repetition by not letting the second loop play. Sadly, the battles take about 1 to 2 minutes to complete. You will be hearing a very similar loop for the entire length of the battle. The same pattern repeating every 20 seconds makes it easy to get stuck in your head. And not the "this is catchy" kind of stuck in your head, it's the "bash my head into the wall" kind of stuck in your head. You may be thinking, but Zulu, there are 3 different battle themes. Even though you don't listen to it every battle, it will inevitably come at some point, and then get restuck into your head until you hear another song that's just as equally annoying, and the cycle repeats itself. I may be going a little too hard on the soundtrack, but I do want to get the point across that I don't think that these are good battle themes in the vacuum of a video game. I actually think that these are great songs, especially Tenacity. Sadly, the good songs get covered up by my PTSD of getting them stuck in my head repetitively until the game got to its conclusion. But this does bring up another interesting topic that I would like to talk about, and it's the length of some of these songs. Tales of Vesperia is a JRPG, and JRPGs tend to have very long and difficult battles that require intricate preparation and some sort of resource management. While the Tales series uses real-time action and reaction-based gameplay rather than turn-based, much of the same applies. Individual battles can last upwards of 8 minutes, which is quite strenuous on its own. I have nothing wrong with the length of some of these battles. What I do have a problem with is the songs accompanying them. Furnace of War is a 2.5-minute song, and will loop in on itself after the 2.5 minutes is up. Now admittedly, most battles in this game aren't going to take you that long. I'd say about 2 minutes is the average for every fight that you get into, considering the enemy is about the same level. Some battles will take even longer because you don't have the necessary resources to deal with them fast. It's the longer but more uncommon 4 to 5 minute battles that really start to get to me. Like I said, Furnace of War is about 2.5 minutes long. For battles that take any longer than that, the song will loop itself. So not only is the song a bunch of loops, the entire song may loop itself, creating even more loops. I want to reiterate that I think these songs are really good. It's just that within the vacuum of this video game, they get a little bit repetitive. I will say that it's a fine line. Having a song that's too dynamic makes it incohesive and hard to follow. A not dynamic enough loop of 30 seconds is too repetitive. It's unfortunate that I had to lose my interest in these amazing songs just because I listened to them too much. Before I really get into the next topic, I'm going to do a quick highlight of Octopath Traveler. Sadly, I can't go too far into detail because I can already hear the Square Enix drones. Octopath Traveler has a total of 8 different battle themes. They are split up into 3 regular battle themes, 2 decisive battle themes, and 3 final boss themes. Omitting those 3 final boss themes, there are 5 different songs that play throughout the course of the game, and all of them are about 3 to 4 minutes long, with the longest being Decisive Battle 2 at 4.5 minutes. The length of these battles usually don't go past the 3-minute mark, which means that the track won't loop unless you're trying to make it loop. That, along with the cycling between 3 different battle themes, makes for an amazing experience, vastly different from Tales of Vesperia. I highly recommend that you pause this video and go check out these songs. I definitely recommend these 3. But let's actually listen to some good examples of battle music. It's way easier to understand what I'm saying when you actually hear it for yourself. I think we should start off with everyone's favorite series. Yes, that's right everyone, I want to talk about Persona. Now, I'm not the most qualified to talk about this. I've only played 3 FES, 4 Golden, and 5 Royale, so I'm going to be missing Persona 1 and 2. I know most Persona fans only care about the 3 latest games, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to the ones that started it all. I may not have played them, but their OSTs are amazing. They're a great start to the series. Now, Persona 3 only has 1 battle theme, at least for 3 and 3 FES. The song is titled Mass Destruction, and it is loved by almost everyone in the community. Over the course of this 3-minute song, there are a variety of sequences that change as the song goes on. The techno mixed in with the trumpets creates this futuristic jazz feel that fits perfectly within the context of the game. I said earlier that it's a 3-minute song, and the battles in P3 FES aren't going to take you that long, so it's a good length to have in each battle. I forgot to mention something though. The song has lyrics in it. Sung by Japanese rapper Lotus Juice with portions sung by Yumi Kawamura. a Japanese singer who's done a lot for the Persona series. It's an idea that I haven't really had the time to talk about, but I thought I might as well, as the Persona series, in particular its OSTs, have such a large fandom behind it. Mass Destruction and future iterations of Persona battle themes are all so cherished by the people who listen to them. So why are they so popular? What makes them so loved by their fans? Well, a lot of the songs that we have talked about previously have been very good battle themes, and most of them do a great job at setting a scene for the battle you are now fighting. But I do think there's a slight separation between what makes a good song and what makes a good battle theme. Decisive Battle 1 is a good battle theme. Mass Destruction is a good song. That's not to say that Decisive Battle 1 can't be listened to outside of the game. There's a good reason that video game developers sell their OSTs. There's a large crowd of people who will listen to the battle themes on their way to work or while working out at the gym. But I think that the accessibility of Mass Destruction goes beyond just being a battle theme, and that goes for all the Persona battle themes. A Lone Prayer, Reach Out to the Truth, La Surprise, all of them transcend being just battle themes. They're all just good songs. They aren't mutually exclusive as well. The songs of Persona all do a really good job as being the battle themes of the Persona game. Let's take a look at Take Over as a case study. It's a great song to listen to. It's so groovy and catchy that it's kind of hard not to tap your feet to it. The initial burst of the drums and then the guitar and bass strings that follow flow into the perfect entrance. When we were looking at Pokemon not too long ago, I said how the first few notes of the Wild theme are a little surprising. Having a battle theme start with a bang relates to how the battle will sometimes start at random. You get into the action almost immediately as the song starts, and it doesn't end until the song ends. The stylistic elements evolve as the song goes on, and part of that is due to the lyrics that accompany it. It's a good song even without the lyrics, but one of the more prominent reasons it's so enjoyable is because of the lyrics. The lyrics are written from the perspective of the Phantom Thieves, directed towards the palace owners, and it's filled with references to battling and taking down the enemies of the Phantom Thieves. They're still pretty simple, there's no deep meaning behind them, which is great to listen to while you're already fighting in a battle. I think that Persona and the people of Atlas have done an amazing job with creating songs that are so memorable, partly because of the lyrics, but honestly the rhythm and funk of these songs are way more noticeable. I will say lyrics are a hard thing to cover. There aren't a lot of games that have lyrics for their battle themes. The Persona series has been doing it for a while now, and they've kind of perfected the craft. Lyrics add a completely new dynamic though, and there is a good chance that it could completely ruin the battle theme. Lyrics are something that is so noticeable in a song. It's kind of hard not to hear them when you're listening to it. But every time you listen to the song, you'll hear the same lyrics at a set time, and they will happen in order. It's the pattern recognition that I was talking about earlier. You will recognize when Lynn starts to sing the first verse, followed by the chorus, and then the second verse, and so on. While you might not know the exact timestamps that each of those things happen at, there is a subconscious clock that keeps track of where you are in the song. And it's the reason you know when to sing a certain verse at a particular time in the song. It's that clock that resets every time you listen to the song. Lyrics are a pattern that repeats and repeats for every time that you enter a battle. We had a problem with pattern recognition earlier, and that when you recognize those patterns, you start to get annoyed by those repeating patterns. Songs with lyrics have a similar problem, a repeating pattern that starts at the beginning of the song. So then, why are the battle themes of Persona not annoying? Especially when the rhythm and lyrics are so catchy, naturally being drawn to the music. Why isn't it so annoying? Well, I think a big part of that has to do with the audio levels that the game are set at. Sadly, Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royale don't have an option to change the volume of certain things playing. You're stuck with the preset value that they give you. I know a lot of people have complained about it. They said the background music is very quiet, and that includes the battle music. Now, I didn't have a problem when I was playing the game. I think the audio mixing was done pretty well. The music wasn't way too loud like it was in Tales of Vesperia. The sound effects are kept at a reasonable level, and the voices are good. I think the music being quiet actually helps out in keeping the battle themes interesting. Your attention is usually taken up by whatever of the 5 senses is the strongest at that moment. Video games only use sight and hearing to create their games. Because the battle themes in P5R are so quiet, all of your attention is on the battle theme in front of you and not the audio that's in the background. You don't notice the battle theme unless you are actively trying to listen to it during the battle, and you won't be noticing the song in every battle. Because of this, you won't notice the repeating patterns quite as much, and you won't get annoyed by them if you can't notice them. There are so many other things that are taking up your attention, be it the battle itself, the sound effects of all the moves being cast, or the voices of the characters. But that does kind of create a new problem with the audio of battles. Sound effects are a part of every game, and there are a set of sounds that are played when certain things happen on screen. Use fire magic and you'll get a fire sound effect that follows. They're great for adding more realism to the games that you are playing. Hearing swords clash and war screams really puts you into the situation. In a similar fashion, voice acting has become more and more relevant in the past few years of video games, especially in JRPGs, where characters are given personalities. Adding a voice that suits that person brings your enjoyment of the character out. Just imagine Pokemon characters not having voices. Haha! I remember more about Van Damme in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 than Hop from Pokemon Sword. Mostly because Van Damme is a badass, but also because he actually talks with a voice and not a text box. Sound effects and voice acting also get incorporated into the battles. I know it's not the same topic of battle themes, but it does affect the overall enjoyment of that battle theme. In a game like Xenoblade, there are a colorful cast of interesting characters that have a lot of different voices. During the battles of Xenoblade 2, there are 3 main drivers and 3 blades that accompany them, and each blade will have 3 different moves that each have different names for the moves. That's a lot of moves, and because Xenoblade is a JRPG, they like to say every move that they are using for the entirety of the fight. You get a lot of noises going on at the same time, 3 characters yelling different moves along with short fanfare for doing button challenges, and it gets a little loud, to say the least. While all this is happening, you have the background music that is playing, and this kinda has the same properties as Persona. It goes back to how divided your attention is during a battle. While in Persona's case, it was the volume that was affecting your attention, in Xenoblade, it's all the other noises that are going on. Now, it doesn't have to do with battle themes, I know, but it does change how you enjoy those themes in and outside of battles. We've talked about a lot, but I think it's time that those asterisks finally get used up. Yep, we're finally talking about boss themes. Boss themes are a pretty interesting niche within the battle theme genre, as they are specifically tailored for a situation. You are fighting one enemy. The music can relate to that single enemy in any way possible. That being said, I think it's about time I talk about the soundtrack of Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania and also has a lot of bosses that you can fight throughout your journey. There are about 9 different boss themes in this game, and all are vastly different from the rest. I don't think I can talk about all of them, but let's pick 3 different ones to analyze. Hornet, Nosk, and Radiance are all great for different reasons, and all represent their respective boss battles perfectly. Hornet is a reoccurring character through the game, and you fight her on 2 different occasions. Both fights use the same theme, but the theme fits so perfectly for the fight that it doesn't really matter. Now, before we get a good listen to the theme, let's take a look at the fight and see what we're looking at. It's a fairly smooth fight. Each move is telegraphed to you. You will know what's coming, and it makes sense when you get hit. There is good flow to the battle and to the enemy. Hornet herself is very smooth. It's a very calculated fight. She has reasons for doing what she does. Now, let's listen to the theme. Replace everything that I said about the fight with what I think about the song. It's still a crazy suspenseful feeling, but every note is so calculated and precise. It's so smooth, each note slides into the next like a needle through cloth. It's kind of crazy how these 2 fit together, one being a great fight and one being a great theme. The same can be said about Nosk, but with completely different descriptions. Nosk, the enemy, could give me nightmares. Walking into his nest and seeing a carbon copy of yourself appear and then vanish when you get close. And then finally seeing this ugly creature crawl out of the ground as it breaks your doppelganger's neck. This is creepy, and the music that accompanies it follows the same ideas. It's creepy listening to it, like genuinely skin-crawling. It's kind of hard to explain how aggressive and intrusive this theme is. It kind of jumps into your soul every beat. Not only that, but you have this creepy spider demon scurrying around trying to shoot its poison goo at you. It's a great song, but I'm definitely not going to be pumping weights to it at the gym. And the last one I wanted to talk about was Radiance, as it encapsulates everything a boss theme kinda should. It's such a grand and over-the-top theme that it sounds a little extra, but it does a good job at being the final battle you have to fight. Your entire journey has led you to this exact point. All of your hard work is being put into fighting this boss. It's grand because it's the last thing that you need to do, the last hurrah for your little character. And a lot of final boss battles will follow this setup. Final Fantasy, Earthbound, The Legend of Zelda all have these grandiose boss themes that end the entire game off. They're not themes that you can catch somewhere in the middle of the game. They are specifically made for when the game is coming to an end. It kind of changes what the battle theme is supposed to represent. Where a battle theme represents a battle that is happening, these large finales are made to represent the end. But they are still battle themes as they play during a battle. It's just that they are so specific in what they're trying to get across. They're made for a specific reason and can't just be used anywhere. So the detail is tailor-made. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that you're only going to hear that theme maybe once or twice. The rules don't exactly apply in the same way. It can get away with being linear because you only have to hear it once. It can be loud because of that exact same reason. But they still have to have a lot of the qualities that make a good battle theme. The theme has to be long, as boss fights are usually pretty long. It's gotta set an exciting and suspenseful mood. It's still a battle, and it can't be too repetitive or it'll get annoying. Boss themes are in their own subgenre that is within the subgenre of battle theme. And they kind of have their own rules that apply only to them. The general enjoyment of them stems from the idea that you'll only be hearing them during a boss battle. That creepy spider boss can get away with a creepy theme, and same with the final boss, being extra and over the top. Where a battle theme is good at getting a mood across, a boss theme is good at emphasizing the situation that you're in. Both are good, just a little different from each other. I've talked about a lot of battle themes, but I haven't even scratched the surface of how many there are. But there are a few that I want to highlight. These following themes do a very good job at explaining what a good battle theme is. Now, they may not be perfect, but I love them so much, and I just kind of wanted to talk about them. It's kind of the whole reason I made this video. I think a good one to start at is Battle Torna. It's one of the best songs that I've heard in a while. It's about 7 minutes of non-stop action that keeps getting better the longer you listen to it. The only downside is that you might be hearing it a lot, especially early game where anything that moves tries to fight you. Because there's only one battle and one boss theme in Torna the Golden Country, it's about 20 hours of listening to the same theme. You can get why it might start to get a little annoying. I often listen to it while I'm at the gym or going out for a run, just because of how long and exhilarating the theme is. And I think that you should all listen to it at least once, just so you can get the feeling of it. Now, I briefly talked about it earlier, but I'm going to do another brief section on it again. I think Octopath Traveler has some of the best boss themes, being Battle at Journey's End, the one they call The Witch, and Daughter of the Dark God. They're all so damn good, and especially when you listen to them during the battle. Each song is about 4 to 5 minutes long, which could be considered a little short compared to how long some of the final battles go on for. On hard mode, it took me about 10 minutes to beat some of the bosses, with the final boss being about 40 minutes long. That is a long battle, and the song doesn't change for the entire duration. It stops at some point if the boss phase changes, but it starts up with the same song, the one they call The Witch. I didn't really notice the problem, it just kind of blended in with the battle and I wasn't too annoyed by it, surprisingly. That doesn't change the fact that I listened to the same song on repeat for 40 minutes, just that it really didn't annoy me. Another great series to talk about would be Fire Emblem. Now, Fire Emblem is a weird game, and the music kind of follows that. It's not a typical JRPG. It's a turn-based strategy game, so the battles are just kind of long games of chess. But technically it is a theme that only plays during a battle, so I'll let it slide. Fire Emblem has a tendency to make about 20 themes, and then each theme has another variation that's just a little bit different. So you end up with like 40 themes that are really just 20 themes and then a B-side that's a little more aggressive than the originals. It's a lot, but that also means that you won't be listening to the same song over and over again. Every time you load into a new battle, there's a new theme to go along with it, so you won't have to worry about that repetition. And honestly, they're all great songs. In Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fodlan Winds is just a great battle theme, and represents everything that I praised with all the other songs. Going back to some older Fire Emblems though, songs like The Dauntless Blade from Echoes and Attack from The Sacred Stones are both amazing. They definitely have the formula down. Talking about the formula actually, I think Pokemon has been great at consistently making battle themes. While nothing can really top that first theme they made, I think the more recent games have had great themes. I can't not talk about how Pokemon seems to be chasing the high of some of their earlier works. Game Freak tends to have a lot of similarities in the themes that they create, and it kind of just seems like they're fishing for nostalgia points to all the people that loved the series before. I do think Sword and Shield kind of broke from that, though, as some of the rival themes are just amazing to listen to. Marnie's theme, in particular, does a good job at incorporating her punk aesthetic. Similar things can be said about Team Yell and Pierce's theme. They represent the character that you're fighting with, while still being good themes to listen to. We have talked about a lot, and everything we talked about kind of culminates into this list of qualities that make the perfect battle theme. It's got to be good at setting a mood. It has to be replayable. It's got to be long enough for the battle, and it can't be too loud and obnoxious. These 4 attributes all have to come together in order to create the perfect battle theme, and missing an attribute could cause the downfall of the overall enjoyment of the song. So, what is the perfect battle theme, you may be asking? Actually, there really isn't any. I talked for a long time about what makes a good battle theme, only to tell you that there is no perfect battle theme. Music is a subjective media, and the things that I like are hated by other people, and vice versa. I'm not going to tell you what the definitive best battle theme is because I don't think there is one. I know what I like, but that doesn't cover your tastes. There's a lot of battle music that I've just never heard before. To no surprise, there are a lot of video games on the market. I only know what I've played, and there could be something out there way better than I have ever listened to. I don't really want to end on the pep talk that the best battle theme is your favorite battle theme, but it's honestly just kind of true. Like what you like, hate what you hate. It's a lot of information to take in, but I do hope that you learned a little something along this journey. I just really like battle music, and I think that it's a topic that goes underappreciated when talking about how good a game is. Everything that I said doesn't really matter when you think about it, and I don't really listen to these songs outside of video games. I think it's very interesting to look at a battle theme and try and analyze why it is either good or bad. I hope that I sparked that same interest for all of you as well, because I do think that it's one of the biggest factors for the overall enjoyment of a video game. But they aren't talked about enough. Long story short, I like battle music and I think that you should too. I'm Zulu, but you'll remember me as a random guy on the internet. Thanks for sticking with me. See ya.